Judy, you might as well forget your sermon. I'm definitely going to shorten it, I promise. As we come to our time of offering, please know that this is our opportunity we call Wesley, our spiritual church home, to practice the discipline of tithing and giving sacrificially. Please know that as you're a guest with us today, this is not your time unless the Spirit prompts you to be generous. I'll invite our ushers to come.
Scripture lesson this morning is from 1 Kings, chapter 18, 1 and 2, and 17 through 20. After a long time, in the third year, the word of the Lord came to Elijah. Go and present yourself. I am old. Go and present yourself to Ahab, and I will send rain on the land. So Elijah went to present himself to Ahab. Now the famine was severe in Samaria. When he saw Elijah, he said to him, "Is that you, you troubler of Israel?" "I have not made trouble for Israel," Elijah replied, "but you and your father's family have. You have abandoned the Lord's commands and have followed the Baals. Now summon the people from all over Israel to meet me on Mount Carmel, and bring the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah who eat at Jezebel's table." So Ahab went throughout all Israel and assembled the prophets on Mount Carmel. Elijah went before the people and said, "How long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him." But the people said nothing. Then Elijah said to them, "I am the only one of the Lord's prophets left, but Baal has 450 prophets. Get 2 bulls for us. Let Baal's prophets choose one for themselves, and let them cut it into pieces and put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. I will prepare the other bull and put it on the wood, but not set fire to it. Then you call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of the Lord. The God who answers by fire, he is God." Then all the people said, "What you say is good." Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, "Choose one of the bulls and prepare it first. Since there are so many of you, call on the name of your God, but do not light the fire." So they took the bull, given to them, and prepared it. Then they called on the name of Baal from morning until noon. "Baal, answer us," they shouted. But there was no response. No one answered. And they danced around the altar they had made. At noon, Elijah began to taunt them. "Shout louder," he said. "Surely he is God." Perhaps he is deep in thought or busy or traveling. Maybe he's sleeping and must be awakened. So they shouted louder and slashed themselves with swords and spears, as was their custom, until their blood flowed. Midday passed, and they continued to frantic prophesy until the time for the evening sacrifice. But there was no response. No one answered. No one paid attention. Then Elijah said to all the people, "Come here to me." They came to him, and they repaired the altar of the Lord, which had been torn down. Elijah took 12 stones, one for each of the tribes of Israel, who sent it from Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord had come, saying, Your name shall be Israel. With the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord, and he dug a trench around it large enough to hold 2 seahs of seed. He arranged the wood, cut the bull into pieces, and laid it on the wood. Then he said to them, Fill 4 large jars with water, and pour it on the offering and on the wood. Do it again, he said, and they did it again. Do it a 3rd time, he ordered, and they did it a 3rd time. The water ran down the altar, and he filled the trench. At the time of sacrifice, the prophet Elijah stepped forward and prayed, Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, Lord, answer me, so these people will know that you, Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again. Then the fire of the Lord fell and burned up the sacrifice, the wood, the stones, and the soil, and also licked up the water in the trench. When all the people saw this, they fell prostrate and cried, The Lord, He is God! The Lord, He is God! Then Elijah commanded them, Seize the prophets of Baal, don't let anyone away. They seized them, and Elijah had them brought down to the Kishon Valley and slaughtered there. This is the word of God for all people.
Thanks be to God. Thank you. Seated. That's a very long passage of scripture. I know that, but that is really my favorite story in the Old Testament because it's so dramatic. This is a story that would play well on the big screen. Now, I want to let you know, those of you who are new, and just a reminder for everybody else that this series on Elijah is based on the order of this book that was written by Charles Swindoll, all about Elijah. So for the last few weeks and for a few more weeks, we'll be exploring what God did in and through Elijah and how Elijah responded to that. So he is one of our unlikely heroes, Elijah. So just so you know, these are ideas that are from the book. Now, I want to give you a very quick recap, kind of a fast-forward Old Testament, just to keep with the theme here, of what has happened with Elijah. Elijah is a guy from the backwoods. He's not a city guy. But God calls him up and says, you have a message to deliver to King Ahab, who was married to Jezebel, who brought pagan worship into that area of Israel. Very, as I said a couple of weeks ago, bad mama jama. And that is a word, I'm told. So Elijah went, and he went to Ahab and he said, you're sinning, there's going to be a drought on the land, there will be no rain until God says so. And then God tells Elijah to go away and hide himself for 2 reasons. One, because Jezebel and Ahab's men were after Elijah. They wanted to get rid of him because his message was uncomfortable. But also because God had some work to do with Elijah. And so he sent him off to a brook, and he said, stay here until I tell you to leave. Well, the drought came, the brook dried up, so Elijah had no water to drink, and God said to him, then go about 100 miles away, and you'll be taken care of there. And so Elijah went and came upon a widow and her son who had nothing, and that was who was supposed to provide for Elijah. So Elijah, in faith, went and stayed with the woman and her son, and God continued to provide flour and oil so that they all had sustenance. So the day comes that God says, okay, it's time for you to go back to Ahab, and I'll bring rain. Now, he was a little worried, Elijah, but he went, and he met up with one of the priests in the court who was a believer in Yahweh, the one true God. And Ahab, he said to Obadiah, tell Ahab I'm coming tonight. And Obadiah was a little bit afraid because he thought, what if you don't show up and Ahab's going to have me killed? And Elijah said, no, I'll do what I said I will do. So that's where we come into the story that Sam just read for us. And the thing is about Elijah that we've learned so far is that at every turn,
we see two things. Elijah is obedient, immediately obedient, and every single time God provided for him. Elijah has grown into a confident man of God. He's completely trusting in God because God has been faithful in all things. So when God tells Elijah to go back and confront Ahab, Elijah goes. So here's the situation. There's been no rain for 3 years. This is what Elijah predicted. Think about it for a minute. We've had droughts here in Charlotte, right? And it's in this time their crops weren't growing. Their animals were probably suffering and in some cases even dying because there's no water for them to drink. The people are probably getting testy. They're short of water or out of water. They're probably getting worried. They might be wondering why the Baals are not answering their prayers to bring water. But God sends Elijah back for one purpose, and that is to show his glory so that the people will turn back to him. So Elijah throws down the gauntlet. He's like, we're going to do this thing, right? And the people think it's a good idea. And here's what you need to know. They gathered people from all over Israel to come to Mount Carmel to see this contest between the Baals, the gods of Baal, and the one true God. So you've got people from all over Israel, and you've got 850 pagan prophets. 850 pagan prophets. It's insane how many people are there to do this thing. It's a big crowd. So Elijah says, how long will you waver between two opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him. This is big. Elijah is asking people to make a choice, and to make a real choice, not just to say, oh yeah, we believe in Yahweh, and then go and do whatever they wanted to do in a pagan culture. He's saying, oh no, you're at a place where you need to make a choice. William James said, when you have to make a choice and don't make it, that in itself is a choice. This is a real choice that they're being asked to make. Now we know in Matthew's Gospel, it says no one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. It's about choosing. Neither can you serve two gods. You choose the God of heaven, or you choose the God of this pagan world. So Elijah then, you heard Sam read it, gives instructions for how to do this. They go and they get 2 bulls so that each the gods of Baal and the one true God will have a sacrifice. And Elijah says to the prophets of Baal, you get to go first. So it seems, doesn't it, as if he's being very generous in letting them go first. So they prepare the bull for sacrifice. They do as Elijah said and lay the wood out as they would for the sacrifice. Got it all set up, everything except the fire. And this is why I love this story, because they're so earnest, dancing around and begging the gods of Baal to rain fire down on the sacrifice. And picture it, 850 men dancing around, calling out to their false gods, asking for fire to come down, and they do this for hours. The scripture says they stop at noon. They were probably pretty tired and pretty hungry and ready for something to happen, and they stop, and they can't figure out why nothing has happened. This is where Elijah comes in. He says, shout louder. Now this is why I love this story. Elijah is an unlikely hero, and we have a tendency to elevate the people in this book to, a pretty high status. But Elijah's a regular guy. He's like any one of us. A couple of weeks ago I said, it's like he's from, what did I use, Mississippi, and several of you said, thank you for not saying it's like he was from West Virginia. Right? Yeah, come on, West Virginia. But remember, I know, I'm trying to go to the nice.
All 3 of them.
He's just a regular guy. And he's like us, he's sarcastic. He's watching these lunatics jump all around for 3 or 4 hours, nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. And he's going to have a little fun with it, right, Elijah? So he says, shout louder. And then he begins to ask a series of questions that are just dripping with sarcasm. Dripping with sarcasm. He says, surely he's a god. Perhaps he's deep in thought, or busy, or traveling. Now, I gotta tell you, when you go back to the Hebrew and you read this, the busy part means off to the powder room. I don't know why that didn't make it into the scripture, but that's what it means. He says, maybe he's sleeping and must be awakened. Now, you know Elijah took a lot of pleasure in poking a little bit at these crazy people who've been dancing around for hours. So that they renew their efforts, and they just go on and on and on, and you just picture the frenzy that it had to be. So finally, it's getting towards evening. It's time for the evening sacrifice, and Elijah says, just enough. And he goes and he repairs the altar. He doesn't want to use the pagan altar. He wants an altar dedicated to the one true God. So he repairs the altar, and he sets up 12 stones to represent the 12 tribes of Israel. He's taking great care to honor Yahweh, to honor the one true God. And then he creates a situation that, to our minds, would seem impossible. And how many times when we're talking about the things that God does do we say, it doesn't make any sense, it seems impossible? He says, he puts the wood, and he puts the wool, and he has a trench done, and he fills it with water, and he pours water over the wood and over the wool. And so you have to picture, there's this altar, and the sacrifice is set up on the altar, and they're all around, there's this trench of water, and all the wood is wet. I can hardly get my grill fired up when it's dry and I've got lighter fluid. Okay, so I can't imagine how they thought that was going to happen. But I want you to see what Elijah does then. He prays. And when he prays, it's very specific. First, he acknowledges God's identity. He acknowledges who God is and that he is the one true God. Then he reminds God that he's been obedient. I love it when the heroes of the Bible remind God that they've done well. It's okay to say, I did what you told me to do, God. And Elijah does that. Then he asks in simple words for what he wants. He wants God to bring down fire so that the people will return to him. That's the purpose. And in Elijah's very brief prayer, he communicates all of that. So he doesn't get a little answer. He gets a big answer. If I could recreate this, I would. And you all know that I do some interesting things in the sanctuary sometimes. In fact, I want to hit the pause button for just a second. For those of you that weren't here Friday night, the kids on Tuesday ran through their production, and it was very good, but it's still a little rough. And so Julie said, Pastor Judy, how did the kids do? And I said, how many of you watch America's Got Talent? And they all raised their hands. So I said, well, if I was one of the judges, it would be like, that was amazing. Because that's what the judges do on America's Got Talent. So on Friday night, at the end of their performance, I shared that story. Well, the kids had said to me, what, do we get the golden buzzer? And I said, not, that is yet to be seen. So at the end of their production on Friday night, we gave them a golden buzzer, and we rained down confetti all over the sanctuary.
From confetti cannons.
From confetti
We didn't just
cannons.
throw it. We had cannons.
Yeah, no, we had cannons. So it was, so when I say we do some unusual things in the sanctuary, it wouldn't be unlike me to reenact, the fire coming down. But we're not going to do that today. But God, I mean, God just sends it. He just sends it. Talk about a canon, right? This is God's canon. He gives a complete, unequivocal answer. He has done the impossible. He's ignited wet wood. And he didn't bring the big, lighter. It was huge when it happened. God definitely got the attention of his people. And the people do turn back to God. It says in verse 39, when all the people saw this, they fell prostrate and cried, the Lord, he is God. The Lord, he is God. So what can we learn from Elijah? First of all, when we're sure that we're in the will of God, we're invisible with God. It says in the New Testament, all things are possible with God, all things are possible. And it's that. So how do we discern the will of God? I get asked this question a lot. How do I know what the will of God is? He doesn't send email, right? And you don't get writing in the sky or anything. But there are a few qualities that might be important for us to know the will of God. We need to have our attitude right, first of all. We need to remember that God is God and I am not, right? That's important. We also need to think. God gave us good brains to think with, so we want to consider looking ahead, thinking, what are the consequences if I do this? Is this God-honoring? We have the capability to think through those things. We also should be willing to humble ourselves and take advice. I'm going to confess that I've bumbled into some pretty big things from time to time without getting some good advice, and it never turns out well. It's always a good idea to get advice. We also need to be very honest with ourselves and consider our motives and why we're doing something. And I think Elijah personified all of these things. The other thing is that we really need to be willing to wait on the Lord, to know that things will happen in God's time. And so the first thing we learn from Elijah, because he did all of these things, is that when we're in the will of God, things like the fire from heaven can happen. The second thing is, divided allegiance is just as wrong as open idolatry. We can look at the pagans out there, whatever that means, but that's wrong. We need to be completely on one side or the other side. Jessica Hahn, you might remember, those of you who've been in Charlotte for a while, was a church secretary who committed immoral acts with Jim Baker, who was head of the PTL club over there just over the line in South Carolina. She says that God gave her real peace about granting an interview to Playboy magazine posting topless pictures. In 1987, the news reports that she still considered herself a Christian, but she goes to God one-on-one, not through any church or organization. Also, she doesn't consider herself a bimbo, but her mother does. Yeah. Two worlds, not in the will of God. She's getting peace from a false sense of self. She and we cannot have that divided allegiance. We have to be all in. If you practice and practice and practice and practice basketball, it's not going to make you a good baseball player. You have to practice the right thing, okay? So divided allegiance is just as wrong as open idolatry. The third one is that our most effective tool will always be the prayer of faith. The prayer of faith. Billy Graham was doing a crusade at Shea Stadium in New York, and the planes at LaGuardia were going over the stadium. And there were dozens and dozens of them going over constantly, and it was very distracting. They said it was just very noisy. And he stopped his speech, and he looked up and he said, "We'll have to do something about this noise. This just won't do." And he bowed his head and said a simple prayer to the effect of, "Lord, we ask you to shift the wind and send these planes in another direction. Thank you. Amen." A very simple prayer. So the counselors that were there with him were a little bit shocked, and they didn't really know what to expect, but God did it. The winds shifted, and the planes had to go to the airport in a completely different way. For several days thereafter, thousands of people came to Christ. And after that, at the end of the crusade, the winds reverted to their normal flow, and airplanes returned to their normal flight patterns. A simple prayer of faith. It's like praying for rain and carrying your umbrella because you believe that God is going to do it. So those are things that we need to remember. We can always acknowledge God, ask for what we want, and make sure that our motives are right. Elijah was truly an unlikely hero, just like the folks that our kids have been singing about. Truth is, friends, maybe you're an unlikely hero and you don't know it yet. Maybe it's your turn to seek out the will of God and figure out what He's calling you to do. God will always equip you to do what He calls you to do. He's not going to send you out with nothing. So learn from Elijah, and you'll see God work in your life in a big way. Would you pray with me? Father, we thank you. We thank you for all the joys that you continue to bring into our lives. We pray, oh God, that we would be willing, like Elijah, to acknowledge your magnificence